experience the full power of the dark side. Good!
We will deal with your rebel friends soon enough.
What the?
Misa back!
Prepare to fire!
Oh no!
Hello and welcome back to Star Wars Beyond the Stars for episode number 38, recorded on Friday, June 19th, 2015. I'm your host Fred, aka Sith Lord Corv. And joining me tonight, as always, is the commander of Sith Intelligence, Agent Louis Olan.
Hello, Fred. Hello, everyone. Twitch, YouTube, Hitbox. What is up? And as always, greetings. And it's time for tea with Sith Intelligence.
And the captain managed to lock herself inside of the arcade. So joining us tonight is not her, but the only other person who miraculously knows how to fly the ship, the janitor, Pele.
Greetings, everybody, from Imperial Sanitation, keeping it clean for the Empire.
And then, of course, we have the other two that he affectionately refers to as Mop and Bucket, Treek and ID10T. And yes, they earn their names.
Oh, definitely.
And as a quick reminder, we offer free shout-outs, so if you'd like us to shout out anything for you, go ahead and drop us an email to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to do that for you. We're now available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and SWTORNetwork.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyond Podcast. You can tweet us at StarWarsBeyond. And our usual record time is Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at hitbox.tv/StarWarsBeyond. The exception to that will be next week when we record on Thursday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right, Lou?
That is correct. Yeah, slight rearranging of schedules for next week, so next week's episode will be on Thursday night.
Dun dun dun.
Stay tuned for that one, folks.
Coming up later on Sith Center. Dun 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 dun. So Pele, over there on that panel, the one that isn't broken. What does it say on the captain's log is coming up tonight?
Yes, before she went into the arcade, muttering that she was going to get a high score tonight, she handed me at least a copy of the captain's log. So we're going to discuss our last week in game, and then after that, we're going to talk about our E3 impressions, Knights of the Fallen Empire, or coffee if you want to be informal.
Boo. Oh, wait, we haven't got to that part yet.
At least it isn't decaf. Sorry, I couldn't resist that pun.
I thought we drink tea around here.
And coffee.
Coffee. Yes.
Calf.
That's right.
Yep. Gotta have something to go with those death sticks. And then after that, we will hear from Agent Olan and his intelligence report. We will be talking about Darth Plagueis Part 1.
And as always, we do have some things quick to mention. They will be quick, I promise. Posted earlier today by Tate, around 1:44 p.m. in the afternoon their time, where Tate says, "Hey everyone, I wanted to let you know that we will perform maintenance for game update 3.2.2, starting on Monday, June 22nd. Alright, it's going to start around 8 p.m. on Monday, alright, and it's going to go all the way into 8 a.m. Tuesday, supposedly. Alright, so, wow, pretty meaty patch, hopefully. what's going on. Now, they did say patch notes will be posted on Monday, on June 22nd. If there are any updates during the maintenance period, they will be posted on SWTOR's Twitter account, as the website will be offline. Thanks, Tate. All right. Also, second thing, yesterday on the 18th, Tate posted some notes regarding class changes and combat updates for 3.3 on the forums. And these are updates that are going to be on the PTS. So, if you're interested, you want to help test them out, take a look at them. If you're a subscriber, obviously head on to the PTS and take a look. And also, the SWTOR Community Cantina Tour will be arriving in San Diego, California. So, on Saturday, July 11th, the Community Cantina arrives in San Diego. And it's going to be at the Westin Hotel in San Diego, called the Gasline Quarter, in a California ballroom. The address is 710 Broadway Circle, San Diego, California. And like I said, July 11th, which is a Saturday. And it's going to run for the entire day. Actually, I have a quick schedule here. On Saturday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. All right, they're going to have story panels and more. They're going to have an exact schedule and more details to be announced as the days progress. And then from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m., there's going to be a cantina meet and greet where they say swag, drinks, a developer Q&A, and time to mix and mingle with the team and fellow Star Wars The Old Republic players. So if you're in the area and you're interested, take a look.
And that's unusual. They're having a story panel. Usually it's just a meet and greet. So hopefully there'll be a lot of good details.
Exactly.
I like how it's called the Gas Lamp Quarter. That's the poor section of the California ballroom for context. Everybody else can afford electric.
They're still running on gas. Be careful, folks. Don't let them... Oh, too late.
No cigarette.
Oops.
Want to buy a death stick? So let's go ahead and move right into the captain's log then. And first up is you, Pelé. What have you done over the last week in game?
Mostly this week, I was on the PTS, being one of the poor folks as Sentinels who was getting annihilated by the devs and everybody else. But actually, I had a lot of fun on the PTS. Even though today they said the changes that they were talking about, removing the AoE interrupt on caps, they're not going to do that because they didn't feel it went far enough, and they didn't feel like it was worth putting the effort in to just put that in when it wasn't going to end as much stalemate as they want. It was a fun change. I actually had a lot of fun, more fun than on the live servers, playing PvP on the PTS, but that may be because it was a lot of folks who do PvP. I noticed at least Thursday, the matches were very fluid, back and forth. It took people a couple of matches to get used to not dropping AoE to stop a cap, and people were target switching and moving and going. It was a lot, like I said, just a lot of fun. All in all, it felt like a good change, and I was kind of surprised that they didn't put it into effect, because even if it didn't go as far as they wanted to, it was still a nice change because, just from experience, having to make people target switch is always a higher skill choice, skill level than just dropping an AoE on things. But I understand why, and hopefully that come 4.0 that they'll do some balance changes and maybe fix some of these issues where PvP is more fluid. And I can kind of see that if they're putting the development effort on the next expansion, they may not want to kind of half-heart this one and just figure they'll just write it out. But still, it was a lot of fun, and definitely was well worth everybody's time to get on there. It was actually amusing because in a couple of matches, one of the people on the other team was Snave, and
nice.
Yeah, I actually, it was funny because one game we were just stomped, and Snave was perfect. I mean, if you looked at the score, me at the middle of the row was higher damage than him, but we were on a Novair coast, and he was bouncing back and forth between east and west, and he would stealth cap it because pretty much everybody would run off and leave a node undefended, so he would just stealth over, cap it, wait till a bunch of people came back, stealth back to the other side, so it was like, even on the PTS, it was, people still weren't necessarily following the basics of PvP, which was kind of funny. And I guess the only thing fighting him once is I actually got a killing blow, but we still lost a match. And it's like, okay, fine. I can claim one victory, even though... Oh, man. Running up against him a couple of times, get stun locked and then just annihilated because he plays so well. But it was fun. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It was good. So that was basically the highlight of my week, is just doing PvP on the PTS and wondering how many people I was playing against were the devs, or if I was losing, it's like, gee, do I have a bunch of devs on my team? I hope not.
I am very sad, though, that they ended up pulling that change, because that actually got Paige and I back into PvP in the game. And with that, since it's not going live, it's going to be a while before we ever PvP again in SWTOR. Because the regular game, it just gets tiring when you're trying to cap nodes and 30 people just drop AoEs and run away.
Yeah. I'm hoping, from what they said and the way they said it, they specifically said it didn't go far enough to end the stalemate, so it leads me to believe that they're going to try to revisit this and find more ways to keep stuff moving, so they're not saying, oh, we don't care, we're just, it didn't work and we're not going to try. So,
well, if they want to end stalemates, they need to reduce healing on players.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line, because people can out-heal the damage that other people can do. And
oh, yeah.
There needs to be like a straight-up, either 30 or 50% heal reduction in war zones.
Yeah, there were times when I, as a Sentinel, and of course, we're not OP like we used to be, I could blow all my cooldowns, try to burst someone down as combat or Carnage on the Marauder side. I'd get them down, maybe 75%, and somebody would burst them back up. Or if they were already down, I could get them down to maybe 20%, and a healer or two would just burst people right back up. And it was just like, well, I've blown all my, long-term cooldowns. I'm not going to do much. So accepting that, I just spent most of my time trying to distract people. If I could get 2 or 3 other DPS focused on me instead of my other team members, and I felt like I was ahead of the game, even though I would die fairly quickly. But
I don't believe that they pulled that change because it didn't go far enough. I think they pulled that change because people that want PvP to be easy were crying about it.
I feel like AoE is always a low skill option. Target swapping is difficult for a reason, because it makes you have to focus and find the right target. But it also makes you feel overpowered. And people love to feel overpowered, and if you get a couple of Sorks or Sages or anybody that can drop AoE and move on, who aren't channeling it, you feel very powerful. It's like, boom, I've just stopped this whole team from being able to cap this node, and that makes you feel good. And when you combine it with, certain classes being flavor of the month, when 3 specific advanced classes top the charts in the ranked arenas, and one of them is definitely an AoE using class, it can be pretty brutal in the regulars.
Yeah.
But I hope, like I said, I hope they will revisit. If not with 3.3, then hopefully with 4.0 or somewhere once they're comfortable with they're going with story. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But like I said, I wish they had put it in, because at least it would have been some advancement on it, even if it wasn't perfect.
See, SWTOR community, this is our penalty for testing for them. If we would have just left it alone, it would have came live.
Even though, like you two just said, even though the devs felt that it didn't go far enough, and this is coming from a person who doesn't PvP actively in the game, but knowing the trials and tribulations that the PvP community is going through right now, I think any change, however small a positive change it is, I think at this point they just need to let it go forward. Because hearing, Fred, you and Paige talk, and Pele talk, and everyone else who chimes in and sends us emails or tweets or comments about PvP, I think these changes need to go forward. And it's easier to build upon something if it's actually in, all right, as opposed to, I guess, keep trying to adjust it for the developments that are happening that can happen so rapidly within the game's cycle, For example, when the new big thing happens, all right, when Knights of the Fallen Empire debuts, okay, with the level cap raise and so on, okay, and all the stuff that comes with it, and we're also promised new abilities. Again, therein goes, all right, now how do we balance those new abilities we supposedly are supposed to get with the current set of abilities that PvE and PvP go through now, right? And something like this, to where, I guess for me, it made your PvP games more enjoyable because it actually gave you a better chance to, I guess, survive and increase your chances, to win.
Well,
right?
it removed the biggest annoyance, because any war zone that's dependent on node capping, that's what it would become a game of. You would have 3 of your team there, and just one of theirs would just run up and drop an AoE and ruin everything, and then run away. And they would just keep doing that. Whereas in this game mode, you either had to fight or you weren't interrupting a node from being taken.
Right, and if you had 2 or 3 people trying to spam cap, then you had to be watching their cast bar and interrupt the right person. And, ranged, it's easier because, some of the folks have long-range interrupts, and, the AoE was a second long-range interrupt. And myself as a sentinel, mine's like 6 meters, a kick. I've got to get in and get close, when some of that was nice. I mean, you could still turtle and stuff, but it meant you were playing better. You were focused. You were not just, I'm going to drop an AoE and I don't care who's capping. It's like, I've got to focus on the person who is capping, or people. Mm-hmm. So
exactly.
And so, I mean, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that they want to stop this, type of turtling, because they want to see PvP be fluid, moving, that if you stop a group, it's because you have superior play. But I would have liked to see it have gone in. I agree with that, especially on when it's solo groups versus solo groups. I think it would have made the game feel more fun. Well, you always, in PvP, you always want to be doing things. If you're stunned or if your group can't progress, that tends to drive people nuts, and they'll either rage quit or they'll get out of that match and say, oh, screw it, I'm just going to go do something else, or they log out for the night. Whereas if, oh, wow, we might have lost, but boy, we were just fighting back and forth, and I felt like I was doing things and I was excited, I'm going to queue right back up.
That's what I love about PvP when I do it in SWTOR, is when I can actually fight people. Not when my goal is to get through this doorway, and every time I try to get through that doorway, they just drop AoEs on me after AoE after AoE. And it's either I run away from my objective to fight somebody, or I keep trying to get my objective and just get destroyed by AoEs from everybody. And that's not fun.
No.
But, I think we should continue on, because we're all in agreement here that they should have let that change go live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, what did you do over the last week, Lou?
Well, as I mentioned last episode, this past week I actually stayed away from all my max level characters, just to take a break from the Zyos part of the storyline, and I was working my low level alts. So I worked a bit on my Juggernaut, my Sniper, Commando, and my Guardian. Okay, I got them up a couple levels each. With my my new work schedule and time, so I was happy at least I got to work on those 4. I didn't progress as much as I wanted to, but like I said, at least I got a couple levels on each of them. And slow and steady, I'm fine. I know I'm going to have them all maxed out by the time the new expansion comes out, so I'm not worried there. And to make sure, at least when I'm taking advantage of the 12 times XP, as always, I'm always just funneling money for my max level characters to supplement these alts gear, so that I don't fall into the trap of, my God, I'm trying to do a level 30 class story, I'm getting my butt kicked, I'm still in my level 11 gear from either Black Talon or the Acellas, because I'm just burning through the class story so much. So I'm going to make it less painful this time around for all of these characters, and not upgrade all the gear, but key parts of the gear, like definitely the weapons, are going to get upgraded, and at least the accessories like the earpiece and the implants definitely will always get improved. Because for me, those are really easy to replace anyway. And on my sniper, okay, this is the first time. Well, I guess one of the few times I'm actually taking one of my characters and just role playing that character completely dark side, and making her out to be as much as a cold-hearted trigger puller as she can be. All right, and just something the way just hearing the voice actress who plays the Imperial agent, okay, Joe Wyatt, just hearing her in that voice be rude, inconsiderate, or just plain evil, just makes him that much more fun. Like, wow, I've never heard this side of the story before. Because remember, I've always played the majority of my characters light side. Okay, now I've never maxed out any character Tor so far as dark side at all. I think the only time I've ever done dark side characters has been, the predecessors for Tor, KOTOR 1 and 2. That's it. I played dark side completely in those games. But when it came to Tor, for some reason, I just never went that far. Never, had the urge or never had the need or desire to go play dark side in any character, whether Republic or Imperial, which is shocking considering, Sith Empire. You'd think.
I think it took me almost 2 years before I made my first dark side character. It's more difficult in the MMO when you know that character is going to be around long term, and you yourself in real life aren't a complete jerk.
Right, and also the fact too that having been on the beta forums way back when, and also beta testing the game, realizing that certain companions that I wanted to use on any, on both factions, whether it's the Imperial characters or my Republic characters, I knew there were companions that didn't want me to be evil. Okay, and these are companions I wanted to use and advance and finish the storyline with. So I guess that's also a big reason as to why a lot of my characters aren't dark side, because I wanted to keep those companions and max out their affection easier.
Yeah, but if you're dark side, you can be like an abusive person and just give them, do something terrible and then give them gifts to make them happy.
or you could just be a Sith pureblood and just smack all of them and not take any repercussions from that.
Take nothing. Here, come here.
I love smacking Quinn.
I will say on the agent is like sometimes even what you would think is minor story things, if you go dark side, like it's some people just get killed, and you're going, wow, when I did this light side, it was totally different feeling of the story. So that's one of the cool things about the agent. Light and dark side felt different all the way through, not just at the major story beats. So
the only place that the agent really felt different was at the very end of the story, because if you go completely dark side, you don't find out that big reveal at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've played almost all of the classes now, light and dark, except for the Trooper. I didn't take all the way through dark yet. I got to the end of Chapter 1, though, that way. But I can honestly tell you, the class that feels the most different, whether you go light or dark side, is actually the Jedi Consular. That class story changes dramatically, depending on if you're light or dark.
Yeah, and that's what got me wondering, because I know, again, if you haven't heard from the latest with Knights of the Fallen Empire, we're supposed to get additional character slots when that comes out.
Well, they're not promising. They're saying we might get two.
Yeah, we might. So there's that possibility, because as I mentioned before, I do want to get. I am buying additional character slots on the server, especially Jedi Covenant. So I am completely. I really do want to take a consular and just see exactly what that feels like. That storyline as a dark side character. Yeah. Just because cause my consular, she's female, and just to hear that actress's voice, seeing, oh wow, she could be a real. I wonder what she sounds like as a real evil person.
Right. Oh yeah.
Sort of the Jekyll and Hyde mentality. Like, wow, I've heard her as Hyde, the normal person. Now I'm going to hear her as like, eek.
The consular actually doesn't play like an evil person most of the time. They play like they don't care about people. Like I told you, the one quote, I actually have screenshotted in my Steam library, where my consular Nosh, when I played him dark side, he was like, that sounds an awful lot like your problem and very little like mine. And it was something horrible, like, help me, my wife is dying. That sounds a lot like your problem and very little like mine.
Yeah. Oh, you jerk. That's right. That's Jedi jerk to you, sir.
Yep. That's Master Jedi jerk.
The ends justify the means.
Yeah. And of course, since E3 just happened, and as promised, Byron Austin did say they had a big announcement, and we all know it. If you haven't heard so far, Knights of the Fallen Empire debuted the Knights of the Fallen Empire coffee, as I call it now, because I'm just submitting the tea. Of course, any of the CGI trailers that Byron Austin has done for the game, just bloody amazing. Okay, all the CGI trailers, made by Blur for this game have just really amazed me, and now you can completely understand how these trailers can just get people interested in the game just because of the sheer scope of what they show. All right, the action, the dialogue, everything that drives these trailers. What's the appetites of people who want to say, hey, you know what, that looked really cool. Let me check out this game. And as always, the trailer just left more questions in my mind than answers regarding the future content that's coming up for us. And I'm just hoping that in the coming weeks, as I said they would, that they're going to release more dev blogs and maybe add live streams in there, and they're going to start doling out the information as the weeks come along to lead us into the new content. All right, and I'm hoping too that at least with this, if they keep to this, they're going to keep the hype train in control. All right, and also keep the misinformation and rumor mill out of commission. All right, because I know there's at least one thread in the forums, general discussion forums, to where someone brought up, okay, these are all the Fallen Empire rumors and such that aren't true. Okay, that were brought up but didn't come true. And I know I think at this point, maybe an hour before the show started, around 7 p.m. Eastern, I think that there was hitting 4 pages long by now of responses. And again, more theory crafting as to what was going to happen, what's going to happen, and so forth. And one point that someone brought up that I wanted to just mention really quickly, the individual instancing that we saw happen, okay, in Shadow of Revan. All right, one concern that was brought up, and I'm going to admit, also a concern of mine. All right, will Knights of the Fallen Empire use the same mechanic? Because, as Fred and Paige mentioned in past couple episodes, they always play together. So to see them having to run the same thing twice, okay, that gets annoying. That gets old after a while. Whereas before, when we were leveling up 1 through 50, we could always say, hey, just allow access to the same story, same area. And it was great. Okay, we could still be there. We didn't have to. We couldn't affect the other person's outcome, but hey, we could still be there.
I have a feeling they will be personal instances because it takes more work to do group instances, because then they have to have the voice actors and do the stuff for multiple characters. Because you notice in a lot of the original game quests, if you were by yourself, it would talk about you. But if it was the group, it would be like all of you or something. They would indicate a plurality of people. So right. I'm gonna guess that this will be personal phases again. I think Ziost was our example of that, unfortunately.
Yes, that could be the case. And at least for me, in my own opinion, I find that mechanic, it's just cumbersome and boring. Not boring, but annoying. All right, if I play with a full group of people, having to do the same thing 4 times in a row, even though we've all seen it, we all know what's going to happen, that gets tiresome.
Oh, agreed.
And for me, that drives people away from doing the content, because having to watch the same scene 4 times in a row, whereas before all of you could just see it once, do what you had to do, and that was it. Move on and play the game, and just go on enjoying the game. All right? And yes, to answer your point, play, that's right. You're absolutely right. I believe having to weigh the cost of having not only a solo version of these instances and then group version of these instances, I guess Byron Austin had to make that hard decision, say, well, look, what can we do to, I guess, keep to our schedule, make it cost effective, and yet still deliver on our promise of delivering more story content for the players. And I guess this is it.
I don't know. We'll have to see, because I think it's pretty obvious they have a bigger budget for Knights of the Fallen Empire than they did for Shadow of Revan. So right. We may see a return to the old style.
And it may be how much, they're trying to do more cinematic, like when you go into that first bar and they pan across the bar and stuff. They may be trying to do more of those camera moves and things like you would see in an actual movie. Mm-hmm. And they may feel like trying to do that and the group thing doesn't work very well. So that may be part of it, is they do their quote-unquote more cinematic stuff that they feel like it isn't worth it. And honestly, their metrics may show that most people do these things solo, not in a group. But I would actually like to see that statistic of how many people actually level together versus how many level solo.
Well, I guess for that, I mean, that metric is also a two-edged sword because it's the same thing, damned if you do, damned if you don't. At least for me, the way the game is designed, I really felt no need to group up at all. From day one. I mean, the only reason why I grouped up at all when the game first launched is because I couldn't tackle the heroic 2s and 4s on my own. And that was it. I felt no need to do anything with my class story or even the other side quests for the planets. I felt no need to group with other people because there was no need to. I didn't feel a need to because I could tackle it, albeit with difficulty. I could still do it. And I think that's one thing that they need to consider is the fact that the way they design the content to where, yes, it's easily soloable, and now that drives them to say, well, we're going to make all this content just solo instance because that's what players are doing. Well, that's because of the way the game is designed. Okay, or one thing you've designed into the game, you've made it possible for people to not have to depend on one another. It's where, you can do pretty much everything by yourself if you just take the time and the patience. You can always come back, go back a level or two later and then finish it, and still be on the same planet.
Yeah, because it always felt like it was very group accommodating, because if you weren't within range of the quest giver, you could holocom in and stuff like that. And so I'm kind of sad to see if they move away from some of those things because those were fun. Mm-hmm. Those made those were special features of the story content that I enjoyed.
Right, but like I said, let's see what happens. Let's see what they do. I mean, obviously they've made no indication of what they're doing with the instancing, with the group instancing, solo instancing, and so forth. So again, that's just speculation on my part. I mean, if they do it in Knights of the Fallen Empire, that's fine. I mean, I'm still going to play it. Still going to enjoy it. Yeah. I'm just going to put there, I wish they had come up with, or wish they had gone back to the old way of, you could do it solo, or you could have a group version of it, and everyone gets to see it at once. And then I have to come back in and out.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that prefers the personal phase version because you could always just do those quests solo under the old system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was nice to have the option.
Exactly. And then to top it off, of course, reading the forums, I really do like this one other thread that's on the general forums. It's concerning the possibility of recruiting / betraying companions that Knights of the Fallen Empire will supposedly bring us.
I'll tell you right now, if they don't let us betray / kill Quinn, it's a fail.
Well, and that is one of the funniest things I've seen because a lot of people like you, Fred, would just like that option, very much so. They would like just a force choke or just send Quinn into oblivion.
Well, I don't care if I can't kill him, but I want rid of him. I want to be able to tell him to go away and replace him.
You know what would have been funny if they hadn't have done the blur trailer and they do like a lot of games where they do, in-game cinematics where they're, doing the big thing of, we have this feature, that feature, and they had done one where betray a companion and you see Quinn in an airlock and the warrior hits the button and the door pops open and he gets blown out. I think a lot of people would have just cheered.
I actually have a screenshot of one of my Marauder force choking Quinn up against the wall. Quinn's grabbing at his throat and begging for his life. It's pretty amusing, actually, right after that part that makes us all hate him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Too bad I couldn't walk up like that dude in white in the Blur trailer and just ram my lightsaber through his back while he was squirming on the ground. That would have been an awesome cutscene.
Who knows? They may just be in the works.
That'll be the last time you think you can betray me, Imperial. I love how he calls him Imperial, like it's some kind of racial slur the way he says it. Yeah. Imperial.
No, I actually would like to kill Skadge more than I would Quinn.
Yeah, you're right. My BH, I would definitely love that option. And not with a blaster, with a vibroblade. Just because it's more visceral. That's how much I don't like Skadge.
Yeah.
Wow. You ever notice how on most of these characters, the companions that they give you that like dark side choices really suck?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they give you the lamest companion that likes dark side choices most of the time. Or maybe that's just Republic side, that tends to be the case.
Yeah, because Scorpio's pretty evil, and feeling. And she's actually a pretty cool companion.
Yeah, and believe it or not, Dr. Locken actually likes it when you make dark side decisions a lot, too.
Yep.
And he's pretty cool, can become a Rackle. But what about on the Trooper? The only companion you get that actually likes dark side decisions is Tano Vic. And he's pretty much worthless.
And he's more like, I'm out for the money. What can I scrounge? What can I sell? What con games can I run?
Yeah, it'd be great to give 4X that kind of personality. It's like, he's a battle droid. Why can't I reprogram him? Instead of being like the Optimus Prime of Tor, it's like, can I just make him? Can I just make a Megatron?
Prime.
Can I just reprogram into Megatron? This would be great.
Oh, what's even worse, like Lord Scourge is the Jedi Knight companion, and after what he did to Revan, I'm like, you son of a hut, you just stay right there on the ship. Don't you even think about it. Don't pass go. Do not collect 200 credits. You stay right there.
Right. You guard the ship, and by the way, the ship will not fly under your command. I program the ship. It will never respond to you.
I just wish that you could customize where your companions are on the ship, because I'd like put Lord Scourge like clipping into a wall someplace where you couldn't see him.
Or just put him in the engine room.
Yeah, like inside of the engine. You just see Lord Scourge, the name tag, floating above the reactor in there. All right, that's cool.
Or it'd be great though. You know how the bounty hunter has Blizz as a companion. It'd be awesome if you gave us the option to place companions anywhere you want in the ship. Anywhere you put Blizz on the ship, there's parts, and the ship parts around him are like in disarray because he's taking the ship apart.
Or the ship droid apart.
Yeah, and you're like, what are you doing?
I just had a thought just now that I wish I would have thought of when we did our GSF episode. But one way they could encourage people to do GSF again, they could make those GSF-specific companions able to be unlocked with a certain amount of fleet rec.
That would be cool.
Then you could actually buy them for that character to use. That would be awesome. Just a random thought. But, real quick, I'm just going to tell you guys what I did over the last week. Unless you have more to say, Lou, before we...
Oh, no, I was going to say, that wraps up my week. Although that would be cool, though, for Blizz to do that on the ship. On the bounty hunter ship, that would be awesome. BioWare.
Well, I spent my time in-game with SWTOR playing my Sentinel that I've been leveling up. And he's getting pretty close to being level 50 now, so I'll be doing the whole McKeb and working his way up to level 60, since they already confirmed that you can't boost one of your pre-existing characters to 60. But the majority of my week has been planning what I was going to do with my gaming rig once I watched the AMD event that happened at E3.
Mm-hmm.
And I went ahead and decided to give AMD a chance and ordered me a new AMD video card. I didn't get the Fury, for those of you that might be wondering. I got the 390X. And it's in my gaming computer right now.
Okay.
So far, so good with that. But I also decided this would be an ideal time to upgrade to a 1440p monitor after Play had spoken so highly of them. And I went ahead and I ordered one from Amazon. And both of these things, I paid for the shipping and arranged so they'd both be here today, so I could enjoy both of them at the same time. The video card works wonderfully. It's doing great. I hooked up the monitor, which looked pristine. Brand new Acer monitor. Looked beautiful right out of the box. I assembled it, put the little stand on the bottom, set it up, took all the plastic off of it, and then I powered it on. And the screen was completely shattered on the inside. Terrible. Terrible.
Ouch.
So, while my AMD drivers were installing, I decided, I'm irate at this point, so I put my old monitor up, and while the AMD drivers were installing, I pulled up the Amazon website, and I jumped right into chat to tell these people all about my problem that I'm experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And Amazon customer service was great. They're sending me a brand new monitor. As soon as I talked to them, they put in the order. So they're actually sending me the new monitor before I even return the broken one. And they're guaranteeing me that that'll be here Monday. And because I paid for the faster shipping, they went ahead and refunded all the shipping charges. And hopefully the replacement monitor will be here Monday and not broken.
We hope.
Well, it's kind of an ironic thing because what was my number one fear with getting a 1440p monitor that I was telling you about all week before I picked one?
Like 3 dead pixels, just enough that you couldn't return it.
Yeah.
And I hope to God there are no dead pixels on this. That would be like right in the middle, 1 dead pixel. That would be like the most infuriating thing.
You're killing me, Pele.
Well, that would be my luck, It's like, oh, go from bad to just incredibly annoying.
At that point, I think I'd have to drive my fist through the monitor and be like, you sent me 2 that were shattered back to back.
Yeah.
You guys are batting 1,000. This is awesome.
But after I talked to Lou about this, I happened to look at the box that the monitor came in. Because, when you get a new toy, you don't really inspect the box. You just take it out and play with it. And I looked at the box, and there was a hole in the side of this box that's the exact size and shape of the fork on a forklift. So it looks like somebody was loading a pallet of these monitors someplace and accidentally drove the forklift right into the box and then just backed it up and just continued putting the pallet where it was supposed to go.
Yeah, like, oops.
Well, because let's be honest, if we worked for Amazon and we accidentally did that, we're not going to own up to that and pay for this monitor.
Assuming it was a person, it might have been a robot.
Possibly. But either way, I hope that the monitor that I get on Monday is fixed. Does not have any of these problems. No dead pixels, no shattered screen. Because I'm really anxious to see what this video card can do on a 1440p monitor instead of the 1080p. But I do have to say that thus far, the 390X is a good video card. I opened up SWTOR, looks beautiful. It was a much needed upgrade. I had the 660 Ti, and I've learned, believe me, reading the internet lately, that there's a huge debate of Team Red versus Team Green. And I don't really consider myself to be on either team, but I believe honestly that after AMD sponsored a PC gaming show and put on the presentation that they did, they deserved a chance to see if they can retain me as a customer. So we'll see how this graphics card performs in the long run, and if it does poorly, I'll be back on Team Green instantly.
Well, and as I said, competition is good. As long as AMD is putting out good products, it forces NVIDIA to do good products, and we all win, whether we're on one team or the other. If we only have one team, then they get fat and lazy and don't do improvements.
Yeah, now we just need Acer to come out with a forklift-proof monitor.
If that's even possible. But who knows?
The strangest thing about it, though, was when the monitor was off, you could never tell that happened. There was no cracks in the actual screen until you powered it on. Like, they busted all the pixels inside of it.
It's like all the padding in the monitor case did its job up to a point.
But I just wish...
It was like the forklift death punch. It didn't break the skin, but it broke all the bones on the inside.
If it was going to be like that, though, I just wish that the glass would have been broken so I wouldn't have wasted the time assembling the whole damn thing.
Exactly.
To find out that it was broken.
Oh wait, the dim mock, that's it. The dim mock, the death touch.
Well, if you can remember back to when you were a little kid and you really got that toy that you wanted for Christmas, like I had that level of excitement when I'm setting up this monitor, because my monitor right now is a 23-inch, and it's a pretty old monitor, so this was going to be a massive upgrade for me. I was super excited. I set the thing up, and I'm feeling all excited and giddy, and then I power on the computer, and I just see this, and like my excitement turned to sheer horror in less than a second. I'm like, oh my god, that's exactly what I said too, and I'm just staring at this with my jaw dropped. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It took every ounce of control I had not to punch that monitor off my desk when I saw that. Like, to calmly take this monitor apart again and put it gently back into the packaging to return it. I was livid. Like, the dark side was flowing through me.
The hate and the anger were flowing through you.
Well, and it's scary to think, too. A lot of times companies will ship the monitors in the packing box. You know, it's the box it comes in is its shipping box as well. So you hope that, you know, the monitor is well protected in its original box. But I guess the forklift foo is strong in that driver.
Well, I will give Amazon props a little bit because the hole is only on one side of the box, so they may not have seen that. But they packaged it into a giant Amazon box, and they put brown paper all around it to like pad it even more during transit. But the problem with that is when you put the monitor inside of a giant box, the carrier that's delivering it doesn't know that that's a monitor. So they just toss it around or whatever because they don't know it's something breakable. It didn't say fragile or anything like that on it.
Right.
And Amazon probably didn't notice the big hole in the back of the box. So, you know, it might not even have been Amazon that drove a forklift into it. It could have been done at Acer's factory or anything. But either way, this monitor is completely unusable. I sent Lou a picture of it, and in fact, the picture of this monitor is going to be the show art for this week because I'm that pissed. But hopefully Monday that's going to be corrected because I really want to see what this graphics card can do. I mean, so far everything, like when I loaded up SWTOR, it has more contrast and it looks better, but you know, it's just a matter of seeing it on a higher resolution because it's not that noticeable compared to what I was looking at before.
Right.
At least that's good that on your existing monitor you can see an improvement in the graphics with the new video card. So that's a plus.
True, but it could be that my existing monitor went back to factory specs when I unplugged it. So I don't know. I don't know what the difference I'm seeing is. I know it looks different and it looks better now. I just hope that it's the video card.
Yeah.
But I could tell you though, this video card, this is a side note, but for anybody that hasn't bought a video card recently, this video card is huge. Like, I had a 660 Ti in there, and I thought that was a big card. This card here, literally, I have a giant tower for a custom-built PC, and when I got in there, I actually had to manipulate cords and move them out of the way to get them out of the way of the video card. Because this video card stretches from the back of the case all the way up to almost where the bays for the hard drives and stuff are.
Wow.
This is a huge video card. It has 3 giant fans on the bottom of it.
The upper end cards are big. You know, they are doing a lot. So.
Well, I was tricked into getting a 660 Ti not too long ago. I thought that was a better card than... I mean, it wasn't a bad card, but I thought it was more recent hardware than I was led to believe at the time. Yep. Because I didn't keep up on video cards and what was top end and stuff at the time. And even though the Fury X looks amazing, and there was a point when I considered buying one, I don't want to be one of the first people to have an HBM video card and discover that it causes fires inside of your case. So I stuck with the existing hardware that has been tried and tested for the last couple of years, but a much upgraded version of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's too funny.
I figure by the next time I'm ready to get another video card, HBM will be the norm for both companies. If it catches on, it doesn't catch fires.
Yeah.
That would have been all that I needed, an HBM video card that catches fire inside of my tower and my monitor shattered.
You're like, can the weekend start off on an even more horrible note than this? Let's see.
I would have probably had to drive to the nearest Amazon factory and thrown my flaming tower through their window. That's what you get. Well, the lady I talked to from Amazon was very helpful, and she gave me her personal guarantee that my new monitor isn't going to be broken. So I assume that means that she put special notes inside of their internal system telling them, inspect the box, make sure there's nothing wrong with this monitor. Make sure that we send this with a fragile sticker all over the box so nothing happens to it, which means it'll get left on my porch Monday and it'll rain. So that's how my week went, guys.
Well, we've all had exciting weeks this week.
Yeah, I'm just
Some more than
glad-
others, apparently.
Yes.
I'm just glad that the monitor wasn't the only thing that I ordered, or this day would feel like a complete loss. Thank goodness for the video card.
Yeah. You're batting 500, which is better than most.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Monday we can up that to like a 950 or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm glad I took pictures of that first monitor, though, because I'm hoping after Monday I'll be able to laugh about that.
Yeah.
And I hope I don't need to take pictures of a new monitor and cry.
Oh, God. Well, I'll make sure I'm around in case you need to vent on Skype.
I'll tell you right now, if something that messed up happens, if I get another monitor that's shattered like that, I'm going to tell Amazon to refund my money, and I'm going to go up to Best Buy and buy the floor model. This one works. I see this one right here. I want this one. I will pay you full price for this. You could set up another one out of the box.
Jeez.
You think they would do that for me, Lou?
They would probably say just buy the new one then, as opposed to getting the open box one.
That'd be fine, as long as they set it up at the Geek Squad station and make sure nothing's wrong with it before I take it.
You gotta buy it first.
That's fine, and then I can literally exchange it that moment if that happens.
Yep.
Jeez.
All right. So, what's our discussion topic tonight, Lou?
Well, tonight, obviously, since E3 just happened, and as you mentioned earlier, Bio Austin did have that announcement, which we did hear about, Knights of the Fallen Empire. So, we're just going to go over, some of our first initial early impressions of what we've seen and heard so far with the CGI trailer that was released, and plus some of the interviews that are going around now, some going on with Bruce McLean, Jeff Hickman, and so forth, that other sites have had access to, and that are available to look at. So we're just going to dig right into it. Knights of the Fallen Empire. All right, that's the new content that's coming up later on this year, around October.
And we should point out, I believe that they came up with that name because they're trying to attract some of the KOTOR fans, where that was Knights of the Old Republic, and this is now Knights of the Fallen Empire.
Right. So when we look at the initials of how they abbreviated KOTOR, Knights of the Republic in the past as KOTOR, this would be Kopfi. Or, as I say coffee, I just drop the T.
Coffee? Well, it sounds like you're saying coffee with a speech impediment. You shouldn't say that.
Yeah, that's right. It's just called coffee.
You're making fun of people now.
All right. Well, as we call Star Wars: The Old Republic, we call it SWOTOR. Now I'm just going to call this coffee from now on.
Well, actually, I've heard people call it SWOTOR, Tor, Soder.
So yes, that's
Swatter.
true. Yes,
Remember
I actually heard
Swatter?
Swatter once.
That was
I heard
before
once.
launch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard it called Swatter in a long time.
All
And
right. So
what is it
what's
you
that?
call it, Palais? Swoter?
Sotor?
Sweater?
Yeah. Sweater. Yeah.
Sweater.
Tor.
Go ahead, Lou.
All right. So the first big thing I obviously want to get over is the fact that we had this amazing, gorgeous new cinematic trailer, obviously produced by Blur, created by Blur, showing us the next part that's coming up for the SWOTOR story.
Featuring the Musco twins.
Well, yes, I think the first 20 minutes, half an hour after that was released, I think that was going on Twitter. I think Musco even replied to that, to where
He did.
Yeah, he said
was-
he said it's starting.
So I thought that was pretty funny, but of course, as always, from the very first trailer that we saw from SWOTOR, with Deceived, till today, all right, Blur has never failed to produce an awesome looking CGI trailer for whatever game studio hires to do their work. And this one was no different. I was really expecting, as Fred and I were discussing off air earlier on before the show, was that we would see something, that was done in game, like other teasers have shown in the past. When they do the class advancement and so forth, they've always shown stuff from within the game engine, and so I was kind of expecting something like that. But then to be actually shown this beautiful CGI trailer, introducing the next big set of chapters for the SWOTOR story. It was, I was amazed, I was stunned, and I was completely happy to see this happen. Okay, I was like, wow, they really invested their time. They put out the money to hook players, new players, get them interested, and again, give the veteran players something to look forward to. All right, and what do we see in this trailer? Hopefully, this won't be a spoiler because it is Friday, and the trailer's been out since Monday. So hopefully, no one will be angry if we start talking about it.
Well, if you haven't watched it now, stop listening to us and go watch it.
Yeah, skip the next 15-20 minutes of the show. Go forward. Go all the way over to the recommendation or the lore segment. But what do we see here? We see a mysterious third faction. Okay? And it's not until you get to maybe the middle portion of the trailer to where you start seeing this third faction taking on both the Republic and the Sith Empire and wrecking house on both of them, to put it mildly. All right, so what are some of our initial impressions once we get to that point in the trailer? What did you guys think about this new third party that came into the picture that BioWare is now introducing to the story arc?
First off, I thought it was extremely well done. My second thought was, oh God, hype. And this is just me. And you probably, even if you go back and read my tweets, I tend to be allergic to hype because I've seen too many times where somebody will put out this amazing trailer and then the game sucks. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, I thought, the way they were doing this story versus the original trailers I was like, where's some of the Star Wars feel that the original 3 trailers gave us? So I was kind of disappointed in that. Again, it's still great, but it's like, where's that conflict? And then I'm sitting there thinking, my character's sitting on Ziost. The Emperor's about ready to destroy the galaxy. And where are these two guys coming from? It's that bridging connection that kind of left me unsatisfied. It's kind of like in the game we're building to this climax, and story-wise, BioWare pulled out and went somewhere else, and it's like, good God, okay, what's going on here?
Right. You felt that there's a
connect the dots for me.
Yes, exactly. There was a plot hole somewhere that we missed, and now we're jumping into a completely different direction of the story.
Yeah. And I mean, thinking about it, this is the way EA likes to do things. I mean, I'm used to more traditional MMOs like Guild Wars 2 or WoW, where they do the in-game cinematic, the content, they kind of give you what the nuts and bolts of the game that's coming is going to be to deal with the regular fans, and then they save the cinematic closer to the game launch to really kind of fuel that hot last-minute hype to get everybody excited right before the launch so they're ready to go. But EA tends to do it, they like to get that hype rolling first, and they did this with Star Wars Battlefront, because when I was watching that footage, I realized a couple of days later, that's what they like to do, is get the hype going and then start releasing the details later on. So it's a different method, and it's one that I would prefer, just the way I am, to see the nuts and bolts first and then have the hype. I mean, if they'd released, this trailer was cool, but it might have been better to release it at Gamescom, but I still think it's doing the job that they want. It's gotten a lot of people excited. People want to come back. People want to believe. I mean, I saw a retweet of Fridge MM, who was in Death and Taxes, and one of the people who was quitting because of the raid content, posting, I want to believe. And so, that's cool. That's good to see, that people are excited, that the story content makes them want to come back, and this trailer is getting people talking about the game. It's getting SOTOR the attention, so I think it's doing a good job from there. Mm-hmm. I'm just, from a story point of where we are to where we go, I'm just kind of wondering, I just wish there was some connection there, lead me from one to the other. But no, I think it's good, and I think once we're into it, this will make a lot more sense. But right now, from where we are and seeing these two guys and all this, I'm kind of like, why should I care? As an existing player, I'm kind of like, why should I really care about these two guys? It feels very much like a Cain and Abel story. I don't see so much of the Star Wars, but then I started thinking maybe this is more like we're the rebels starting out building the rebellion, and this guy is more of the Palpatine once he sees control of the Galactic Empire, converted the Republic into the Empire, and we're building kind of that Star Wars rebel feel, and that would be cool. Us against the rest of the galaxy. So, yeah, haven't had some time. I'm kind of looking at it a little bit differently. So, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I definitely acknowledge it's got a lot of people who are on, who weren't excited. People who may not have looked at Star Wars for a long time are now thinking about coming back, or, just new fans wanting to see it because of that cool blur video. Right. So I think it's worked well for them. I just hope they can continue to build on the hype and they can deliver the substance behind. They sold us the sizzle. Now show us the steak.
Right.
So what did you think, Fred? Well, I think a lot of your points are really good about how they were there to put on a presentation, because this was an E3 thing. They weren't really trying to show this to the people that are already playing the game, even though they know those people will tune in. They know that, but that wasn't who this video was aimed toward. This is aimed toward people that haven't looked at Star Wars: The Old Republic, or people that played at launch and left and never came back. And I know that's who they're marketing it to, because I have a free-to-play account that I experimented on a long time ago. And right after that video came out, they sent me an email with a link to the video. They didn't do that on my subscribed account. They only did that on the one that's been free-to-play since it was ever created. And that's who they're marketing toward. They're trying to get more people in this game. That's why they're changing direction. They want the KOTOR fans now. And I can't say one way or another whether their marketing hit that mark or didn't. You're saying like you would rather have the bullet point list of features, but that only benefits somebody that's currently a subscriber. The people that aren't playing, those bullet points can mean less to them.
Right. And like I said, I think I'm used to seeing the stuff that's geared to the subscribers first, and then going out for the the hype later. So again, it's my expectations versus what EA is trying to do and BioWare is trying to do.
Well, I think if they could have their ideal way, you would have never seen that trailer. I think that they would have only shown that trailer to people that aren't subscribers, and the subscribers would be waiting until a lot closer to October to start seeing stuff. And they probably would have never shown you that trailer if they had the choice. It would have just been, okay, here's the bullet point feature list of stuff that's coming. And you wouldn't have seen that trailer until the first day you log in and the expansion's live. Like the first time when you start up the game, how you see the other trailers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's in an ideal world. I mean, if things could be in a bubble. And I think that a lot of times when they do these things to market new players, it gets overanalyzed by the current subscribers too. I mean, look, we watch the trailers and we're like, oh, these look awesome, but what do they have to do with the game? Well, to somebody that's not a subscriber, they don't know that has nothing to do with the game.
Right.
It just like we're building up to this big event in game, which colors my perceptions. Is like, this is totally out of left field, it feels like. And so because I have that existing game knowledge, it colors how I see the trailer. So, for me, it doesn't work so much, but, like I said, I'm acknowledging it works very well for someone who's never seen it. It's very exciting. It's cool. I've watched it multiple times.
Right. And, and to that point, okay, let's go over quickly some of the things that we do know that they have mentioned. All right. Now, and by them, I mean, folks from BioWare, Austin, okay? One of the things we do know, okay, your character becomes known as, or becomes the Outlander, all right, a veteran of the Great Galactic War, which is the war that occurs between the Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic during the time frame of Star Wars: The Old Republic, okay? Remember, 1 through 50, you're building up to the reignition of the war, and then at the end of your, the first part of the class story, level 50, the war starts up again, okay? The Great Galactic War starts up, all right? And now you're facing this latest threat to the galaxy, who is known as the Emperor of the Eternal Throne. All right, and we'll get into these finer details in a moment. What else do we know? Level cap is going to be raised to 65. All right, so 5 additional levels when this content comes out in October. And as Fred and Polly mentioned earlier, all right, you do have the option now to create a level 60 character at character creation. Unfortunately, if you have characters already, all right, if you're a sub, prefer free to play and you already have characters mid-level, low level, no, you cannot make those characters into level 60. You actually have to go all the way. You have to start a character from scratch in order to get that character to level 60 at the outset.
But let's also clarify this too, that Musco clarified that subscribers will get 1 level 60 character when this expansion goes live, and then everybody can buy a level 60 in the cartel market.
Right. So bear that in mind, folks. And as always, things may be subject to change. All right. So yes, this is what we all know now. But as always, remember, MMOs are ever breathing, ever changing. So it's a few more months till October. This is what we know now. Let's keep that in mind. Maybe things will adjust. Maybe things will change. Who knows? All right. And as I mentioned earlier, October 27th, 2015 is when we can expect the first of 9 chapters of additional story content to debut. All right. So with Knights of the Fallen Empire, at this point in time, from what they've told us, we are supposed to receive 9 chapters of story content. All right. The first chapter, which, as I said, October 27th is when it happens.
Except I think subscribers get it like there's 7 days early access as usual. So a lot of us will be doing it on the 20th.
Right, and hopefully, there won't be any major issues stopping the subs from having,
the week of beta test.
Well, that's completely ironic since free-to-play don't get it at all.
Right.
It's the point in doing early access. Like, the launch day is basically the 20th then.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they decide, we love our fans so much, and that, like, the week of early access, they'll say, we're going to make it available, for $20 you can, unlock this and start playing and get the first 9 chapters with it or something like that.
Well, no, all they got to do is subscribe for 1 month and they get the first 9 chapters.
True.
I mean, nobody should complain about that.
Right. Just sub up, a couple of days before the 27th. Or, if they do announce the official early access date, just sub up before then.
Yeah.
And you get it.
The only thing you could really complain about is the fact that they're not going to be selling the other chapters.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sub up again to get the extra chapters. That might be a complaint if you're free to play.
Right. Okay, so, again, to go over some of the other points we mentioned earlier. Okay, so with level cap is being raised again. Remember, we just had a level cap raise. All right, we got to 60. And now what? We're getting another 5 levels in, what we say, just over a year or just under a year?
Just under a year. It's about 11 months. I think Shadow of Revan was in November.
No, I thought Shadow of Revan was like the end of November, like right up against December.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, roughly late November, early December. So, yeah.
Shadow of Revan was 12/2/14. Yeah.
All right,
so that puts early access at the end of November then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're less than a year, and we're getting the level cap raised again. Okay. Which, in most cases, a lot of other MMOs, that's not unheard of. When you consider a major expansion being released, usually a lot of these games will also raise level cap. But that's usually after at least a year plus. All right?
Well, and that's an interesting thing, too, talking about expansions, because I realize, again, this is me, is I've gotten used to, for example, WoW releasing these massive expansions every 2 years, and BioWare's releasing expansions or releasing fairly major content twice a year. So it's a different cadence, and we've kind of got when we hear the word expansion, we've got to be thinking about the particular MMO that we're dealing with, because they are using the same term differently. We can't apply, 2 years worth of developed content for a game that releases expansions, twice yearly. So there's a difference there too.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a good point. That even though yes, Star Wars: The Republic is an MMO, the fact that BioWare Austin, they use the same terms. However, keep in mind that they have their own definition and they stick to it. Okay, and just as Play said, all right, when World of Warcraft says they're doing expansion, yes, that is major content. Okay, I mean, what was the latest one they had? All right, they just released World of Draenor. Right before that, Mists of Pandaria. All right, and there, what did you get? Entirely new zones, okay? Raid content, 5-man group content, major class changes, and so forth. But that's the product of work that's been done for at least 2 to 3 years in the background. All right, now, of course, BioWare also uses the same terminology, but bear in mind for them, we have to keep in mind how they use it, what context that BioWare uses it in. And I think that's where a lot of the problems come in with the hype train from the community, is the fact that everyone's so used to all the other MMOs saying those terms and getting this, and then when BioWare says it, okay, they actually mean this. Well, we have to be able to scale it down to this. So, that being said, obviously, if this is a major content update and it gives me some new stuff, then fine. You know what? Raise the level cap. I'm fine with that. Like I said, I'm going to play it anyway, so I'm going to enjoy it. All right, that just means I'll have to get my alts up there faster. Okay, or I already know I have more of a more story to enjoy with these low level characters I have. All my low level alts. I know in the future, come the 27th of October, I have more content that's just waiting for them that I can experience with these new classes, or with these new characters I made. Same thing, the ability to create a level 6 character out in the outset in creation. Okay, as Fred mentioned earlier, Eric Musco did say that subscribers will get one level 60, I believe, right off the bat. I think when we log in, we'll have that extra character slot. Whether you're maxed out on character slots or not, you're going to get that character to play the game with, to get to 60 right then and there.
Well, let's just remember, though, they said that wasn't confirmed. They're trying to add those 2
Right,
slots.
they're trying to add that, yes.
But we always have to clarify with them.
Yes. Yeah.
But now, as they said on their Teeny Cast, that level 60 might be a great way to start a new character on a different server to play with somebody. Even if you're like Tio and have like 4,000 alts on one server, you might want to actually use your 60 on a different server.
Well, again, at least that gives players or subscribers more flexibility in terms of playing with their friends. All right, because we all have friends who play the game who may not have max level characters at this point in time. And that's no one's fault. No one's playing. It's just that their play style, their lifestyle, they just don't have max level characters yet. At least now, if they choose to, they can have a level 6 character, and they can play. They can start jumping into the content with their friends, their guildies, right then and there. And I think that's a great win for the players, because you don't have to block them off. Players won't necessarily feel left out when this new content is released. Okay, they won't be behind the curve, and they can just jump right in, and start plowing ahead and enjoying the storyline that comes with it.
Man, I really hate this, though. Just being the old school gamer that I am, like ever since the EverQuest days, I hate the selling of max level characters or anywhere near that. And, I could get over that maybe, but selling max level characters to people that don't play the game is even worse, because then you end up with people that still don't know how to play the game and they're max level. And I think there should be some kind of requirement, like you level a character to 60 before you can make other characters that are level 60 for free or buy them.
Mm-hmm.
In an ideal world, but unfortunately,
I know, money talks.
Well, and the problem is World of Warcraft sets the standard for a lot of people, and you can go buy a 90, or if you buy Warlords of Draenor, you got a free 90 with it. So it's kind of that we're gonna.
Well,
the perception of
that, though, they should make it so you get a free level 55. They don't give you the former level cap; they give you 5 levels below it.
Right. Well, what they did is they gave you at the max of the prior expansion. So you were 90, and the new expansion went to 100. So here you're getting a 60, where the new expansion is going to 65. So you still got to go through the new content. And it's a perception issue. A lot of people look at like, oh God, I've got to do these so many levels to get up with my friends. So at least, you kind of take that argument, that friction out of the game. Mm-hmm. Depending on how they price it. If you get one free, fine. Once people get in and see how easy the content flows for leveling, they're probably likely to level other characters, especially as this game really does encourage you to level alts. And if they streamline the stuff, as they say, it should be easier. And if they make them, it's my concern is that as long as they don't make it too cheap, because Warcraft, it's $60. I mean, you're paying basically price and expansion for each, pre-level character. So if they don't, as long as it's not like $5 on the cartel market, if it's like, let's say $25, $30 or the equivalent in cartel coins.
Or even better, let's just put it in a cartel pack.
Yeah. Buy it and sell it, and see if people will buy the pre-60s. But
I would
as long as the price is reasonable so that, if somebody really wants it, they can afford it, but you don't have people buying, 22 or 24 60s, out of their lunch money, then it should be okay.
I would really hope that they make this an item that you cannot sell on the GTN. Like, make this an option where you buy it on the character creation screen if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to see people, the billionaires and stuff, just have a whole bunch of extra 60s just because they happen to have a whole bunch of credits laying around. And all of a sudden you got a bunch of people that are billionaires because they sold characters to other people. And honestly, much as I hate to say it, we don't know the exact details about this yet, but this is the first thing that can be perceived as pay to win that they're really doing.
Yeah. Yeah, because as long as you can't resell it, that's fine, because otherwise, and they got to be careful with it, as long as they don't have max level or high level crafting skills, if you've got to go learn that, because, if they were to have equivalent crafting skills, you'd really screw your GTN in your economy.
I imagine that they're going to have no crafting skills and have to start from the bottom.
Right, and hopefully no companions or anything, and the companions you get from 60 to 65 are the ones, so those of us who have played at least have an advantage, because pre-existing companions to craft and gather and do all that stuff.
That would be nice if they make it that way, to where if you buy a level 60, you can't do the original class story. You start off as this person that was in Carbonite for 200 years, and your only companions are the ones you get in that story. You don't get the original game companions. Yeah, that way, you can be like, oh, that person bought their character.
Right. And we'll get to that point in a second. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that brings us into our next point. Okay, and this is coming from Bruce McLean during one of the interviews that was out during E3, all right? And where I'm coming, where I'm quoting this from, all right, is from EPN TV, all right? It was a quick interview with Bruce McLean and with Jeff Hickman, all right, to where Bruce explains the setup for Knights of the Fallen Empire, okay? And he says, all right, these are his words, okay, very early on in Knights of the Fallen Empire, you're frozen in Carbonite, and when you awaken, years have passed, and you quickly learn that the Empire and the Republic, as you know them, have all but fallen, and you are the galaxy's last hope. Only hope. You have to find your companions. They've scattered. You have to find your companions, and you have to adventure with new companions in a very personal story. And you'll make choices all throughout this that are very impactful and consequential. And it is up to you to build an alliance to challenge the might of the Eternal Throne. And that is in a very broad way the story of this expansion. And this trailer really sets out the start of that story arc. And that's where I end the quote from Bruce McLean. Okay, so as Fred mentioned earlier on, all right, your character is frozen in Carbonite, okay? As I mentioned earlier on, too, your character has become the Outlander, quote unquote, all right, a veteran of the Great Galactic War, okay? But somehow during this process, your character was taken out of the picture, so to speak. And as Bruce mentioned, you were frozen in Carbonite. Years have passed. And both factions that we've all known to grow and love or hate during our characters in SWTOR, all right, they have both, pretty much hit their low points, to where this third faction can come out of, well, I guess we won't say nowhere, but from somewhere, okay, and bring both the most powerful factions in the galaxy to their knees. All right, so again, here we bring up the point. Your companions, the companions you started off with, all right, when you first began the story, the game, they're gone. All right, so if you're playing Jedi Knight, no T7. I guess again, all assumptions here based off what Bruce has just said here. No T7. All right, no Kira. All right, if you're an Inquisitor, no Kim Val.
Well, we know who awakens us, from the one, or at least currently what they have in the build, and it's one of the folks from the Forged Alliances. It's kind of like, help us, Outlander. You're our only hope.
All right. So yes, if you've noticed, these said you're going to start your adventure here with new companions. All right. We haven't been getting any ideas or teased as to who these companions are. Just that we're going to be getting new ones. All right. And then as we progress through the story, all right, we have the opportunity again, just like in the original Star Wars: Old Republic story. I guess we can build affection with them. Okay. Of course, we're going to have to use them as our crafting people. All right. Again, all assumption here. If we're just going to get new companions, but the same system, fine. They're going to be our new companions. Build affection, crew skill development, and so forth. And all the while, we're going to be, I guess, part of the epic story is that we need to find our old companion. So, again, you're going to try and find Kira, find out where she is, find out if she's still alive.
Find that carbonite block with Quinn in it and keep walking.
Or send it off to a black hole somewhere, again, all right, if you're playing your trooper, you're going to try and find 4X. As 4X, did he survive? Well, I call him he. Did it survive the war? All right, is it somewhere else still serving the Republic? Or was it smashed to pieces by the Sith Empire or by this third faction, okay?
Well, that'd be cool if he's, busted into pieces and you got to regather him and build him again like you do with HK-51.
That actually would be very cool. You should put that in the suggestion box because that would be a great way to reconnect with 4X if you're a trooper. That would be an awesome way to reconnect with him.
I'm pretty sure they already have whatever they're doing written out.
One of the things I like is the fact that some of your new companions can be another class's companion. So, for example, let's say you're a Jedi Knight, and because Doc knows Kaleo, you might potentially be able to get Kaleo, or the Consular. Quaizen knows Mako. I'm sure Mako's going to be a popular companion if you can do things like that.
Yeah. I don't know if I would like that. I kind of think I like the class-specific companions.
Well, the bad feeling guys are going to have their pile of Makos.
Hey, we're not talking about the one from Mass Effect either.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be, the sheer potential of some really awesome stories to finding your old companions. All right, that alone, at least to me, that makes me very excited because then they can have some really great personal, touching, or maybe some really tragic stories come out of this.
I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be pissed if one of these new companion options is in a Cellcath.
Who knows?
Because I have slipped subliminal messages to BioWare employees at every opportunity. Including at E3.
Well, maybe we can put a Cellcath mask on Gus Tuno.
Right,
it's just not the same.
I look at it this way too. When you play the Smuggler for the Republic, okay, and you've got Risha as your companion. Hey, if you haven't finished the Smuggler storyline, skip the next 5 minutes. We all know that she's heiress to, a pretty sizable organization. And I think it would be great to see if you were playing the Smuggler, to see that, once she knew you were gone, your character was gone, and probably gave up all hope, kept the sliver, but gave up all hope and said, you know what, I'm going to move on. And she formed and she took control of the organization. And now she is like some smuggling, kingpin in the galaxy. She's got her own cartel going.
I don't think that's going to happen, Lou, because this is supposed to be like a 200-year time skip, and she'd be dead by then.
No, it's only supposed to be like
19, 20 years. They didn't say...
At most.
Yeah, because they said they specifically tied in the fact that you have to track down your old companions. So they all have to be alive.
They're all going to be older?
Yeah. Obviously, you're frozen carbonite. But they've aged.
Oh, that'd be sick. Like, you're married to Kira, and all of a sudden, she's like 40, and you're still 20.
Well, they've said from anywhere from like 4 or 5 years to 20 years, so they've not really nailed that down.
Right.
Exactly.
All they've said that, you've been frozen carbonite for a certain amount of years. People have been speculating, is it a couple years? Is it 20 years? Okay, because remember, if BioWare still wants these companions to be viable in terms of your story, your hero's progression to, the next content, next few years of life of the game, okay, then you have to keep these companions viable too. So they can't be that old to where they're, they're more of a liability not only to themselves but to you as a traveling companion. All right, let's just say they become, at least for me, they become more seasoned. They become veterans just like you. All right, they're older, they're wiser, more experienced, but they're just as deadly as they were before. So that's what I'm taking away from this. But now you've just got to go find them.
Meet up with Kira. She got like 4 more scars on her face.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and the thing is too, I would also love to see, because with all BioWare games, the interaction between the companions themselves, just when you're just adventuring, from any of the BioWare games, whether it was from Baldur's Gate, Gen Empire, Mass Effect, okay, Dragon Age, we all know that BioWare has always had some really funny or some interesting conversation between the companions that you have no control over. So I think it would be great to see the interaction between your old companions that you've tracked down and the new ones you've picked up along the way, which you were taken out of the carbonite.
Or just like HK51 and HK55. That would be funny.
Yeah, each of them trying to outdo the other. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to see again. Remember how they said they want these choices. They want your character to have consequential and impactful choices throughout the game when this comes out. It would be great to see again if your Jedi Knight was male, okay, and you married Kira, but now you have another female companion on your Jedi Knight character who you are interested in, and all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I'm still married to Kira, or I've made that commitment with Kira, and here I am being a complete d-bag to her with this other companion around.
Or you're married to Kira, and when you go track her down 20 years later or whatever, she's married to Doc, and they have a couple kids together.
Right, and again, like I said, true BioWare fashion, not all the stories are going to be happy. All right, they've always made stories to where, they run the whole medium of, you've got some really light, fluffy stories, really cool, nice, heartwarming, to the, holy crap, this is worthy of, it really pulls at you, it kicks you in the gut.
Well, and here is a chance. I don't know if BioWare's doing this. This is total speculation. Here's a chance to do same gender romance with your existing companions.
Well, they said when that was first asked about, they said that they weren't going to do that because it wasn't those characters' personalities to be interested in the same gender.
Right.
But they could, and I would be surprised if they didn't, add new companions that do go both ways.
Right, and I think this is their an opportunity for them to actually, again, to have companions who will do that, because again, other games that BioWare has done in the past, you do have that option. Okay.
From the looks of things, Lana Bonico looks like she's going to be a companion, and we know she goes both ways.
Right, same thing with Theron Shan. Okay, we know from interaction with those characters that either sex, those characters will react to you flirtatiously and romantically. So that always leads that possibility. Okay, which again would be a nice tie-in of now with this new story content that's coming out in October. Now BioWare is giving us the full range of companions that we've had, that we were able to enjoy in other games. If you wanted to pursue a same-sex romance in Mass Effect with Commander Shepard, with Garrus, okay, or any one of those characters, male, female, now you can do it. If you so choose, the freedom. Again, one of the brilliant things that BioWare has always done with the games, they gave you the choice. You have the freedom to choose to do it or not. So, being frozen carbonite, I'd like to say, how in the hell did that happen in the first place? That was the first question that came to my mind when I saw this quote from Bruce McLean's like, wait a minute, what happened? Did I get jumped?
So it just reminds me of the beginning of WildStar when they're taking you out of that tube.
Yeah, exactly. What happened? Like, did I get betrayed? Did I get jumped? Did someone hit me with a hypo and knock me out? What was going on?
I could have seen, let's say at the end of Ziost, we had trapped the Emperor in a Soa's prison, and they were asking us to be his warden, and we were going to hop into Carbonite or the Starkabel Kolto tanks or something and watch him. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, we're going to prepare this text so you're able to do this, and left it hanging at that, and then rolled into this. But doing it this way, it feels cheesy, It's like, oh, we're making big changes and we want to force time to go by, so we're going to do it in a cheesy way where, I don't know, I'm unsatisfied with the carbonite thing. I know they've got to do it from a plot perspective, but ugh.
Right, and that's my question is like how are they working this into the plot? Because when I heard about this, all right, it's your idea play, which I think is great. All right, my first thought was jumping to Diablo. Okay, remember how they trapped Diablo?
Right.
Someone willingly had to go into the Soul Gem and wrestle with Diablo for eternity to keep him imprisoned in the gem. All right, if we go with the thought that, all right, maybe in some weird way or maybe some manner, to the conclusion of the story arc with the Emperor, okay, placing him in a trap somewhere. Right. Putting him in a trap, someone had to stay in the trap with him, or someone had to be a ward, and in order to preserve that, they put you in you went into carbonite willingly to preserve your body, but your mind was free to be the ward for the Emperor.
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to talk about Vitiate again, really. Mm-hmm. I think that it's going to be somebody like Shea Vizsla betrays you, and she puts you in carbonite thinking she's going to auction you off to a hut, and then maybe her ship gets assaulted and the ship crashes and you get stuck on this ship for years and years and years until somebody finds you and thaws you out.
Yeah, or just like Return of the Jedi.
Companions.
Or maybe someone working for the Emperor says, we're going to freeze you so I can screw up the galaxy and then show you the results and you can't do anything about it. Now that would be like Vitiate. It's like, yeah, I'm going to screw everything up and you're going to suffer when you come out because you're going to see it all ruined and there's not a darn thing you can do about it.
Well, at the end of Ziost, Vitiate did say that he wanted you to be alive to see his destruction, to know that he succeeded.
Right.
Or I think to pay a distinct nod to the individual class stories, I think it would be great to tie in the fact that, as we level our characters to the main story, we all know that we pissed off people, ruined lives, or spoiled their days to achieve our goals. I think it would be a nice tie-in to see if one of those people, remember, all our characters are supposed to be heroes or heroic figures. So, of course, we're going to have heroic nemesis to go with us. All right? So even though we bested them at that point in our story, I think it would be great. Like, for example, the Imperial Agent, okay, takes on the Star Cabal. Better for worse, pretty much turns them down, defeats them. I think it would be a great tie-in to say, hey, you know what? In the end, they got you. They're the ones who knocked you out, and just like Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi, yeah, they mounted you on a wall somewhere, some hidden planet where they were, and kept you as a trophy.
And you could do that in Jedi Knight story, too. Scourge could have another vision and then stick you in carbonite to preserve you to defeat the Emperor.
Right, or to defeat, he sees another great danger threatening the galaxy, but he knows that because in your present course of being the great hero or the D-bag type knight, but still saving the galaxy, he's going to say, you know what? For your own good, I'm going to knock you out and put you in carbonite to keep my vision clear.
Or maybe it's even more grand than what we're thinking. Maybe this empire that's invading, maybe they fly some ships onto a planet that we're on and they drop a bunch of carbonite bombs, carbonite the entire planet.
Or that's a good thought for it. Or even this. How about this? We know now that faction exists in the galaxy. And we know that the twins demonstrate force ability. And I'm thinking their father is the force sensitive. Okay? I'm thinking maybe, just how like in the original trilogy, how Palpatine had great power, foresight. Okay? I'm thinking maybe as a nice plot device, somehow the Emperor to the Eternal Throne sent in a commando type team to take you out because that Emperor saw you as the greatest threat to this empire that he's trying to build and wanted to take you out of the picture. And now, for some reason, which obviously we're probably going to find out in the story, if this is what they're doing, the powers that be, powers for good or for evil, who want to fight this new faction, said, screw you, we know where this person is, now we're going to free them to help throw a wrench in your plans and hopefully save the galaxy.
I like that.
Like that quest on Alderaan where you surrender yourself and then the rebels come and let you go like a minute later.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, it's like maybe this third faction, they're the ones who put you in carbonite because you were the greatest threat to their advancement. But somehow word got out and your faction frees you.
Yeah, they did a first strike on us because we were the leaders of our factions.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense for the eight class stories.
Well, yeah. Remember, what did the twins reveal at their father's feet when they came back from the campaigns? All right, weapons. Yeah, weapons and the flags of each faction. Mm-hmm. So maybe your character is the iconic character they were supposed to go after.
And we got hidden away or imprisoned somewhere, and then somebody's found us and released us to help them out. Yeah, that would make sense. I would like that. I hadn't even considered that at all. That's a good...
It could always be Darth Maul or Satele Shan that has the vision that this is about to happen, and they seal you away so that you can face your destiny.
Right, and maybe it's their weapons that they show because maybe they made a sacrifice to keep the hope of keeping this other faction away. They scatter you, they hide you away in carbonite, but they make the sacrifice. They're the leaders that they kill or take the weapons from, along with the faction flag.
Well, they did keep saying on Twitter and stuff, on the date of the trailer, they kept saying, face your destiny. It could be somebody foresaw something, and it is your destiny to face this third faction.
And take your place at my side. Sorry. That's what it feels like. At the end of the trailer, it's like, take your place at my side.
Well, they did say they were going after KOTOR, Mass Effect, and Empire Strikes Back, all three of those fields. So,
well, we will have to see how it comes across.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we speculated on this quite a bit, and I'm sure we're going to be doing more speculation between now and when it actually comes out. But now I think it's time that we move ahead into the Star Wars recommendation of the week. What do you have for us tonight, Pele?
Okay, Captain Kimbray gave me a recommendation. For those interested in actually getting a look at the recommendation of the week, she will be posting a link with a photo on the Facebook wall. And this is from Think Geek. Let the Force flow over you. Dagobah. Luke was onto something when he said there was something familiar about this place. It boasts multiple small lagoons of murky water. It's often shrouded in fog. Verdant flora grows from every slimy nook, creating its own mini ecosystem. Wait, we know where we've seen this before. It's your bathroom. Turn your home's bath into Yoda's home planet with our Star Wars Dagobah shower curtain. With this 72-inch square scene featuring a sinking X-Wing and some bog wings looking on, you'll feel just like you're on a slimy mud hole far, far away. Only in a good way.
Slimy? My homuses!
The gnarled trees of the swamp will remind you that a Jedi's training, as well as his or her cleaning, requires patience and dedication. You'll have to power through even after you come to the shocking realization that the soap, it is your lather. So clear your mind with questions and groans as well as a result of that pun, and let the Force flow over you. And now on to Agent Olan's Intelligence Report.
All right, thank you, kind sir. And tonight for the Intelligence Report, we're going to jump forward a few thousand years, and we're going to talk about Darth Plagueis. Part 1, Seeker of Immortality. Or in a quote by our favorite Emperor, from Palpatine. I can't say it in his voice, I wish I could though. Darth Plagueis was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful, so wise. He could use the Force to influence the midichlorians to create life. He had such a knowledge of the dark side, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying. Darth Plagueis, remember as Darth Plagueis the Wise, was a male moon Dark Lord of the Sith and heir to the lineage of Darth Bane. Trained by Darth Tenebrous, Plagueis mastered the art and science of midichlorian manipulation. Obsessed with eternal life, he experimented with ways to cheat death and create new life from the midichlorians. In his public guise as Magister Higo Damask II of the Intergalactic Banking Clan, Darth Plagueis backed the rise and fall of certain star systems, businesses, and crime lords, earning him many enemies and putting the Galactic Republic into turmoil. Wow, evil not only in spirit, but in money. What a combo. One of Plagueis' greatest contributions to the history of the galaxy was training Darth Sidious in the ways of the Sith and the dark side of the Force, whom he incited to take control of the galaxy and bring about a new age of the Sith. For decades, he had helped Sidious, known publicly as Palpatine from Naboo, rise to the position of senator and played a hand in his apprentice's election as the Supreme Chancellor of the Republic in 32 years before the Battle of Yavin. Together, they instigated the Yanchori Uprising in 34 years before the Battle of Yavin, the invasion of Naboo, and the war that would destroy the Jedi Order and the Republic in years to come. They were even unwittingly responsible for the procreation of Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One. Plagueis planned to be appointed co-chancellor of the Republic so that he might advise Sidious from the dark and devote himself to his own research. But his apprentice had other plans. Sidious, convinced that his master had outlived his usefulness, eventually killed the moon in his sleep the night before his election and eventually rose to become ruler of the Galactic Empire. Sidious later recounted the tale as the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, an old Sith legend to sway Anakin Skywalker to the dark side, though Plagueis himself remained a mysterious figure to the Jedi and their allies well into the time of the Galactic Alliance. And so, a quick biography. Several years before Hago Damask II's birth, his father, a Force-sensitive moon named Car Damask, who worked as a middle-ranking banking client agent, met renowned starship designer Rugus Nome by chance on Highport Space Center. Nome, in his capacity as reigning Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Tenebrous, had been searching for the right apprentice to train for the sole purpose of eventually possessing through the virulent midichlorians he had dubbed Maxichlorians, in order for his consciousness to survive until the creation of the Chosen One. Years after his meeting with Damask, Tenebrous discovered another Force-sensitive moon, a lower-caste female, and conscripted her as a disciple, for she was not strong enough in the Force to be considered for apprenticeship. Tenebrous, using Bith scientific methods, had predicted that the offspring of Damask and his disciple would be strong in the Force. For this purpose, he tasked his moon disciple to seduce Car Damask and bear him a child. And before you ask, yes, Darth Tenebrous is a Bith. Early life. Born on Megiddo sometime between 200 and 100 years before the Battle of Yavin. The son of Car Damask, who had become the planet's administrator more than 10 years earlier, and his wife, Hago Damask II, was named after his grandfather. Growing up in a domed city on a perpetually frozen and sparsely populated planet, under the overly attentive gaze of his mother, Hago had a very atypical childhood for a moon. She recorded every detail of his upbringing, encouraged him to talk with her about even the most furtive of his thoughts, and provided playmates for him, observing his interactions with them and interrogating him about his feelings regarding each specific youngling. For his 5th birthday, Hago discovered that he could manipulate the Force by using it to apply the feelings of his playmates. He eventually tested the limits of this power by using a very potent mind trick on a moon youngling he had grown to dislike, convincing the boy to commit suicide by jumping into a courtyard from a high window. Hago's mother instructed her son to keep his power secret, and confided in him that they shared the gift. Hago's parents handed him over to Nome as a youngling in return for a career advancement for Car, presumably arranged through the Dark Lord's shadowy intelligence network. Tenebrous took the child as his apprentice, the one he intended to eventually possess, naming him at some unknown point Darth Plagueis. Plagueis left Megiddo for the first time in his life and began his life as a Sith. 5 years after handing his son to the Dark Lord, Car Damask was appointed director of the Treasury branch of the banking clan, realizing his lifelong dream of wielding real power within the IBC. His wife disappeared without a trace. 5 years after that, Plagueis learned the truth of Tenebrous' machinations that led to his birth. Car Damask eventually rose to the top of the Intergalactic Bank clan as chairman. And now we move on to a quick introduction between Darth Tenebrous and Darth Plagueis. Or in a quote from Darth Tenebrous to a young Darth Plagueis, "We Sith are an unseen opposition, a phantom menace. Where the Sith once wore armor, we now wear cloaks. But the Force works through us all the more powerfully in our invisibility." Darth Plagueis traveled the galaxy with his master, masquerading as Rugus Nome's young accountant, while the two carried out the Sith plan of spreading discontent to ripen the galaxy for their rule. During his travels, Plagueis became acquainted with the backwater of the galaxy. In the years to come, he would feel at home in the rundown spaceports, seedy tap cafes, and rough cantinas common in the Rim. Around the year 104, before the Battle of Yavin, Plagueis undertook the trial of visiting Cursed and fighting its natives with Tenebrous for the first time. Plagueis later told his own apprentice that his first mission under the tutelage of Lord Tenebrous was undertaken in the 25th year of his apprenticeship, at some point after 99 years before the Battle of Yavin. Tenebrous asked his apprentice to murder Karit Senth the Elder. The assassination was accomplished by means of telekinetic strangulation during a banquet on Korolag. The Sith Lords took advantage of the fact that bloat eel was served in order to blame Santh's death on the chefs. Following this trial, Plagueis veered from the Sith path, as often happened with apprentices when they first discovered the potency of the dark side. At some point, Darth Plagueis inherited the Damask fortune and took over the Sojourn gatherings from his father. Gatherings were clandestine annual meetings of politicians, the leaders of various trade organizations and cartels, and even gangsters, hosted by Damask Holdings on the moon of Sojourn. Hego Damask II transformed the gatherings from the elite secret club it had been under his father into a Sith tool to influence the most influential beings in the galaxy in order to prepare the Republic for the submission to an enlightened elite promised by Darth Tenebrous. During the long years together, Tenebrous did not invest in properly training Plagueis as a Sith. Instead, he sent him on various missions he judged pointless as a distraction, and cultivated his apprentice's unprecedented talent for midichlorian manipulation, all the while making sure that the moon would only apply it to the preservation and extension of his own life, thus ensuring that he would live long enough for Tenebrous to possess the body of the Chosen One. Plagueis developed his powers in the Force and in the mundane world largely on his own, and indeed took them further than his master believed. Tenebrous also took on a second apprentice, a Bith to whom he bestowed the name Darth Venamus. Although Venamus was apprised of Plagueis' existence, Plagueis was kept in the dark. He believed he was his master's sole apprentice, in accordance with the Rule of Two, a rule he had come to resent. Now we come to the murder of Darth Tenebrous. 67 years before the Battle of Yavin, Darth Tenebrous learned of a cortosis deposit on the planet Valdemnik, and personally went there to survey it with his apprentice, a Treadoid and an M2 mining probe provided by Subtext Mining. What neither Tenebrous, apparently, nor Plagueis knew was that the probe had been sabotaged by an unknown party, with Subtext's complicity. Inside a cave on the side of a steep escarpment on the shore of the Northern Sea, the two Sith Lords landed the craft, a ship designed by Tenebrous himself, and set out to survey the cortosis vein, using envirosuits to protect them from the deadly heat. Tenebrous ascribed special significance to the mission. He believed that two Sith Lords mining cortosis at the apex of the Rule of Two era amounted to the closing of a circle that had begun with Dark Bane, the Sithari of legend, starting on a path toward darkness in the Apatros cortosis mines. The Enterprise soon came to an unexpected end, however, when the droid reported that the mining probe had discovered a pocket of a highly combustible variant of lethane directly beneath the borehole. Tenebrous ordered the droid to have the probe deactivated, but it failed. The probe overrode the droid's commands. After the two Sith unsuccessfully tried to damage the probe using Force Lightning, they hastened to return to the grotto where they had landed the ship, leaving the Treadoid behind. Plagueis made sure to let it know that it had been useful before running away. As the two Sith ran to the superheated caverns, Plagueis noticed that his master was uncharacteristically distressed, as if he sensed something alarming in the Force. They had just made it to the grotto near the surface when the gas explosion caught them. Tenebrous conjured a barrier to shield them from the fireball, and when the ceiling began to collapse, he used the Force to protect the ship. It was then that Plagueis had the impression of hearing the Force whisper to him that his moment had come to claim his stake to the dark side, and lost no time in contemplation. He swiftly brought the huge slabs of stone down upon his master using the Force. The rockfall, however, also buried their ship, trapping them both. Racing to Tenebrous' side, Plagueis tried to comfort his master. The Bith went along with his apprentice's charade, and conferred the mantle of Sith Master to him. Plagueis, accepting responsibility for his action, informed Tenebrous that his death would mark the end of the Rule of Two, and that he would escape the grotto even without the ship. He then broke the Bith's neck, killing him. Both Plagueis and Tenebrous had waited a long time for that moment. The latter had hoped that his apprentice would have made his move years earlier, and was happy to finally be allowed the chance to implement his secret scheme, while the former had wanted to carry the grand plan to completion alone, without being burdened with the formalities of the Banite system. As Plagueis reached out in the Force to study Tenebrous' dying midichlorians, the maxichlorians carrying the Bith's intelligence slipped out of his body, undetected, and infected a wound on the moon's lower back, caused by a rock or some other projectile. As the maxichlorian virus propagated inside Plagueis' cells, Tenebrous accessed his apprentice's power of foresight, the powers he had to give up himself in order to code his intelligence into the retrovirus. What he witnessed horrified him. Instead of providing access to the Chosen One, Darth Plagueis died at the hands of his own apprentice, the Shadow. After the retrovirus completed the task it had been engineered for, the infection of all the cells in Plagueis' body, the Moon Dark Lord lost his powers of foresight. Tenebrous, after slipping out of his apprentice's body in panic, remained trapped as a disembodied essence in the cave. Plagueis lost track of time after the murder, immersed as he was in the Force in order to study his master's dying midichlorians. When he regained his composure, he discovered that he had been injured. After accessing the damaged ship, he realized that he could not repair it, nor could he use the Force to reach the oculus that led to the surface. So he set to work on removing the rubble from the ship using telekinesis and adding the rocks to a rubble pile he could climb to reach the surface. After he had completed this task, he entered the cockpit and retrieved his travel bag, which contained, among other effects, his lightsaber, a change of clothes, and a comlink, and also took Tenemer's lightsaber and comlink. He changed, and after reassuring himself that the scene of the crime actually showed no evidence of a crime, but rather of a simple starship crash, Plagueis left the cave. Relying on a map and Tenemer's comlink, the Sith Lord set out in search of the nearest city with a starport, located a few hundred kilometers to the south of the grotto, taking care to avoid contact with the Conme, the planet's indigenous inhabitants. When night fell, the Dark Lord took shelter in a shallow cave, and as he replayed the events of the previous day in his mind in an effort to fall asleep, he sensed the presence of a being of near equal power to his. He considered that might be Tenemer's spirit come to hound him, as legend claimed that it happened to Darth Bane after he had desecrated the tombs of the Dark Lords. Yet Plagueis, confident that he would outlive any usurpers to whose rule of the Sith, did not allow this premonition to worry him and fell asleep. He awoke and resumed his course before sunrise. Famished, having caught little sleep, with an infected wound and tormented by biting insects, Plagueis was in bad shape. But he immersed himself in the dark side and ran. Resisting the urge to attack the lower caste Conme of the nearby dwellings for sustenance, he sated his hunger on bats and dead fish washed ashore. As he reached the city, Plagueis had a vision of the future. A future of war for Baldemnik. In the starport, the Moon looked around for an appropriate ship to stow away in. After finding one to his liking and recording his registry number, LS4473, in his comlink, he sneaked into the Spaceport Authority building, escaping the notice of the sleeping Conme night shift guards, and found the registrar's office. He sliced into an office computer's control network and called up information on the ship he had selected, the woebegone out-of-Ord Mantell, captained by a Togruta woman by the name of Olan La. The starship was scheduled to launch in the morning, bound for several oral sector planets, with a cargo of fresh sea life kept within refrigerated containers that had cleared customs. It was within such a container that Plagueis sneaked inside the woebegone, taking advantage of the Moon's ability to regulate blood flow to the heart in order to survive the freezing temperatures. Once the crew discovered the stowaway, Plagueis promised to Captain La that he was prepared not only to offer full recompense for the cargo he had spoiled, but moreover to reward them handsomely in exchange for passage to Moonlist. He chose not to divulge his identity, however, and most crew members treated him with distrust. The deal eventually went sour, and Plagueis killed everyone. Captain La, First Mate Ma Cap, the pilot Blair, the navigator Simasali, and the crewmen Dozuto, Wandao, and Pepe Roche. All fell to Plagueis' lightsaber. He only spared La's droid, 114D. Much to Plagueis' displeasure, he was unable to sustain the midichlorians of the crew members he butchered. Plagueis ordered 114D to set a course for the coordinates he provided and retreated to the captain's quarters. The droid then tended to the festering wound the Dark Lord had received in the cave-in and served him food and drink. And this concludes part 1 of Darth Plagueis. Next week, we pick it up again, this time with Darth Venomous. And as always, I wish to say thank you to the Wikipedia, StarWars.com, TheForce.net, and other Star Wars lore sites that are out there. Folks, if you enjoy the Star Wars history and lore as much as I do, please visit these sites, look up your topics of interest, and enjoy.
Alright, and then that takes us into the Community Holo feed. First up is the Trivia Question of the Week, where each week we're going to post a trivia question into our YouTube video version of the show. Simply go to StarWarsBeyond.com and we'll link you right to the episode. On the episode page, there will be a button you press to see the Trivia Question of the Week. Alternatively, it'll always be after we say our goodbyes. Then shoot us an email with your answer to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. In the email, include your character name, faction, and your server. And if there's more than one correct answer, we'll do a random drawing to win a cartel pack. Everyone that answers correctly will be entered into a drawing for a much larger prize, which will draw on the show every few months. You can be entered into the grand prize drawing every time you answer correctly. And remember, this time we're going to be giving away a hyper crate. However, we do not have a new question this week because I got a little busy and didn't get the YouTube video version of the show up in a timely enough manner. So we're going to repeat the question for another week. Lou, did you ever buy that Hyper Crate you were talking about?
Yes, I did. Haven't
Any
opened
luck?
it yet. No, I actually bought it. I actually bought it last night, but it was so late. I was like, you know what, I'm going to bed first because I didn't want to start opening it and go to bed angry in case I got junk.
But you might get a Rancor and then get a purple Varactyl after.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I get the Rancor, I want the Varactyl you got, man. I'll trade. Now Play's like, what? You?
Yeah.
I got a Varactyl. You want a Rancor mount?
Well, we're gonna make a new TLC show called Trading Mounts.
Trading mounts that are hoarders or something like that.
Show us your legacy bank.
Blaze is gonna come in there with an Oro bird.
Oh god, the amount of money credits I spent last year on Suvada for my damn Rancor. Oh,
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know how much you spent.
oh. I got one finally, but oof, that was a lot.
Alright, well, it's time for us to move into what's going on in our SWTOR community and play. Before you read our hefty list here, why don't you tell us about the It's a Trap podcast?
It's a Trap is a new podcast from Redna and Ordo, I believe, and it deals with what is now Star Wars canon, and they are basically making each episode independent, so you don't have to listen to them in order, but they're taking like a book or a comic book series and discussing it thoroughly. So if you want to read along, you can. If you want to come back, if you read the book 6 months later, you can come back to the podcast and listen to it and hear their commentary. So it is definitely, if you love the canon, it's the new canon, it's definitely worth a listen.
Wonderful. So now I'll ask our canonical question. Play, what's going on in our SWTOR community?
In your SWTOR community, check out our following SWTOR podcasts. Most of them are available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at SWTORnetwork.com. Corellian Run Radio is available at CorellianRun.com. UtiniCast is at UtiniCast.com. SWTOR Escape Podcast is at NewOverlords.com. The Usual Podcast is at TheUsualPodcast.com. Kefis Cast is also available at Tor Community. Old Republic Radio is available on iTunes. Healing SWTOR is available on iTunes. The Bad Feeling Podcast is available at badfeelingpodcast.com. Be warned, this is an explicit podcast. Also, follow Madmar at SWTOR Family for the latest happenings in the SWTOR community. And if you'd like to have your podcast listed on this segment, please send us an email at StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com.
And now I'm going to tell you one last time how you can get a hold of us. You can find out more about the show at StarWarsBeyond.com. You can like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/StarWarsBeyondPodcast. You can send us an email to StarWarsBeyond@gmail.com. You can tweet us. The show is at StarWarsBeyond. I am at SithLordCorv. Lou is at GamerGuy11B. Paige is at Ace of Fiery. And Play is at WildPiper. And now it's time for our final thoughts.
My final thought is I hope BioWare, for all the complaints and criticisms, I hope they succeed wildly with their story and bring a lot of people back to the game. So, go for it, BioWare.
I am looking forward to Knights of the Fallen Empire. I do still have a lot of questions that are left unanswered, and I am hopeful that the community team has said that the upcoming weeks they will be giving us, they will be sharing out information. More dev blogs, hopefully more, streams come up as well, and that they will get a handle and, temper everyone's expectations reasonably, and as well as getting us hyped for the new content. Okay, I hope they find that nice balance of managing player expectation and it's still getting people pumped up for Knights of the Fallen Empire.
And my final thoughts, I hope and pray that Amazon sends me a monitor that isn't cracked, that doesn't look like it's been dropped off of a sidewalk or two and run over with the forklift. And I hope that on Monday, Play won't have to mop up my tears. Beyond the Stars is an independently recorded fan podcast made in association with NSG Productions. And now it's time to say goodnight.
Remember, you will be the Outlander, and this should be your favorite podcast in the Citadel. Good night, all.
Good night, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. See you all again next time.
Good night, everybody. See you all next week.
You've served your purpose.
Beyond the Stars trivia question for the week of June 19th, 2015. First clue. We were parasites, spread throughout the galaxy, living in all types of environments. Second clue. Silicon-based, we did not feed on normal food like organic creatures do. Third clue. Possessing legs and wings, we could be seen flying in swarms in an atmosphere or in the vacuum of space. Fourth clue. Our diet consisted of ingesting raw power or energy from any available source, most often ships in space. Fifth clue. Although we could live in planets, we had an allergy to helium, which caused us to inflate and explode. What am I? And as always, folks, please send your responses to StarWarsBeyond at gmail.com. And in your email, please include your answer, the name of your character, the faction you play on, and the server you're on as well. And did I mention the faction you play on? Good luck, everyone. Looking forward to seeing all your responses.